right. Welcome everyone to our first day shifts. It's what we're calling the little sort of webinar or basically roundtable discussions that we're doing as a part of our Save Our Shifts campaign. I'm definitely going to mess that up a few times and say Save Our Shifts.
I was hoping that's where it's going to go.
Yeah, it's definitely going to happen. That being said, this is a little project that the Portland chapter of the United States Bartenders Guild has put on to kind of help alleviate some of the, and we are joined by Zack Bowen right on time. How you doing, Zack?
Hey, how's it going? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, sounds perfect.
Great.
So basically today we've got Pat McDonald, LyAnna Sanabria, and Zack Bowen. All three of these people have been pretty critical in getting the Save Our Shifts, night shifts off the ground. Pat McDonald from sort of an administrative standpoint, as well as helped put together his first video for this. And LyAnna also put together a great video. And Zack Bowen here is kind of the man putting everything together. So
making us all look pretty, Zack. Thank you.
Pulled the awkward right out.
Yeah. So I guess starting off with kind of how it's going. So tell me, I guess, a little bit about the process that that you went about when you were making the videos. I guess we can start with Pat on this one since he went first in real life.
Yeah, sure. So the night shift videos were our original concept for Save Our Shifts to be able to pay bartenders to create educational content for the USBG. And I was the sacrificial lamb, the first to create a video, probably a little longer format than some of the ones you'll see today. But it was, it was a lot of fun. I think anytime you're in front of a camera, you're kind of overthinking everything and second guessing your every move and word. But, at the end of the day, I think it's just really nice, even if you're in a house or a room by yourself, it's really nice to get back to bartending and making drinks because, that's a fun thing that we all love. So at the end of the day, you just think about, you're making a drink just like you would for anybody at your bar. It's a lot easier than it sounds.
Yeah, I think that's one of the interesting things about this whole process that we're going through right now is, I think a couple months ago, we were all itching and clamoring for a day off, most likely. And as soon as this happens, we're all figuring out new and unique ways to make drinks again. Have you run into a similar sort of process with your photography and videography, Zack?
Processes and how?
As far
When you
as,
miss it.
Yeah.
Yes, I do. It was much like the rest of the industry. My industry revolves around tight spaces with people for the most part. And one by one, everything just dropped. And the crazy began to creep up. And so this has been a wonderful thing just to get me back making my drinks again and being creative and fun and just being active and not having idle hands again. So it's been wonderful. And then, that's on a selfish level. And then on the other level, it's doing good, or we hope we're doing good. We're doing the best we can. And
You helped me.
Oh, good. Good. And you helped many others, so.
And I think that's great. Speaking of that help, maybe Zack, if you could give us a little bit of your side in all of this, how are you helping LyAnna when she's, was making that video?
I think my role in this whole thing was early on. I'll address that, but it's not really specific to LyAnna. But as my piece in the whole thing is Pat reached out, Ariel and Sean from Maine reached out, who are good friends of mine, and Pat and I got to work together on trying to think of a way of making this streamlined in a process standpoint so we can get content out there and get it going, and also in a I'm accustomed to being behind the camera and thinking of a bunch of different little things that I think people that own, like I can make a Negroni and I can follow a recipe, but a bartender and someone in that art form is going to know all of these other little things that are second nature to do. And that you may not even think to describe whenever you're talking about it, because you just do it without thinking. And, you know, reverse that. I have a lot of those things for my craft. And so we started trying to think of a way that we can help all bartenders to get, you know, to everyone's getting outside their comfort zone, but how can we make it less uncomfortable? And then also in the same time, how do we make it to where we're going to be able to create and get stuff out there so we can raise money and so we can get the word out? That being the first and foremost thing is to, you know, accomplish our goals. So with LyAnna and Patrick and Tom and Edna and everyone else that submitted videos, it was really just think about these things. Here's a template of sorts. Here's a guide, but try and think in these terms and think in these ways. And you know, no one's really needed a lot of help. I think the help that anyone needs in that situation isn't even from my standpoint. It's just like a whole new way of being in front of something. You know, you have an audience when you're behind a bar. There are people that are just mesmerized by your talent and what you're doing, and you have the next thing to go on to, the next ticket to run to. And now you have time where you don't have that audience. It's like watching John Oliver on a white screen and not hearing the audience laugh track. So you have nothing to respond to. And then at the same time, you don't have another ticket to move on to. You don't have another thing to keep you on task in that same like adrenaline pumping, just going, banging stuff out, and you've got that confidence and you're just going. Now you have a chance to second guess or think about it a little bit more. And you know, I don't know what I can do personally, and not luckily, I mean, everyone's amazing and no one's really needed that sort of help. So I don't know if that really answered your question, but
I think I answered several of the questions that I had.
I was jumping ahead. I'm getting them all out of the way.
We're pretty much done with Zach, so thanks for that. No, I think that's great because it touched base on a lot of different aspects. I think one of the things in particular, I didn't do one of these videos. I have tried or attempted to make videos from home. Certainly in the social media, you know, atmosphere that we're in, all over Instagram, everybody's making little videos here and there. And I think you touched on an important part there with not having that audience in front of you, you know, not having the guests sitting right there to almost perform to. Did you find that as maybe a little bit of a challenge, LyAnna, when you were making yours? Or
that was my largest issue the entire time, and my first noticed issue. I was like, wow, it's one, I didn't realize that I don't just have a YouTube inner star. It's like being at work and like I'm a decently flamboyant, like I turn into a diva when I'm working and I have fun, and that's, I feed off of everybody's energy, but I try to give a whole bunch of energy back. That way it like reverberates around. And there I was, I couldn't even see myself on the camera. So it's not even like I could see the faces I was making or what I was doing. I was like, I actually have no idea what to say about this drink if I'm not picking on what somebody else thinks about this drink.
Wait, you're the diva? I thought I was the diva.
You would think you were the diva. But yeah, not having, right, thank you. But not having that, it's like the whole first day was for me just a learning experience. I was like, okay, I know I need to get this video out, and my hands, if I'm just making the drink, I can do it over and over, and that part of the repetition is easy, and I won't make a mistake. But then when I'm sitting there trying to think about how I actually feel about it, I'm like, oh wow, this is weird. I had no idea that I miss people this much. I always kind of thought of myself as more one of the like more introverted bartenders in terms of my home life. I don't always like to go out, and I don't always love huge groups of people, and I think most people who know me know that. But then now that I don't have those people around me on a daily basis, I'm like, I'm pretty sure I need attention. I had no idea that was such a huge, I knew it was a huge part of me at work, but the second I leave work, I'm like, okay. And that was also a positive thing about it, was I had this little bit that I could send to my dad in Idaho. I could send to my old friends in Oakland. Like, hey, remember when we used to drink that stuff? Like, I just did a little thing, and it felt good. It was one of those, like, okay, this felt awful at first. I have no idea what I'm doing. I don't know how to be in front of a camera. I really miss this audience. I don't know what to do without them. But then taking it and recreating my own audience, I guess, online, which is what we're all doing right now.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that I liked about your video was having clearly your cat Nani recognized
Terrorized my life.
Was recognizing that you needed some sort of audience there, so it was really nice of her to kind of sit there
Yeah.
and just be present for you. So that's always really nice to see people have that support system.
It's an emotional support bartending cat.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's one of the fun things about shooting at home. You never know whose kids are going to jump in, or cats or dogs, and contribute to the fun. They want to get in on it.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I wanted to touch on a point that Zack made about like trying to create a template for the videos, because as I mentioned before, like for me, like the drink making aspect of the night shifts is very natural. And so going through that, it's like, all right, I know what I'm doing. I know how to do this. And so having the support of Zack and, the videography side just simplifies the whole process, so that you're not overthinking, where do I put the camera and how far should it be and what are the angles. Like, it gives you some reassurance to say, okay, I'm doing this right, and I don't have to try it 20 different ways before I figure out what works. It's like having that resource to be able to like fine tune some things, and then you can just focus on the drink making aspect. Definitely makes it a much more enjoyable experience.
And if you don't mind, I just kind of want to piggyback off of what Patrick just said. The beauty of the medium and the beauty of the situation, if we were to try and find a silver lining to things, I'm not trying to belittle the really negative and devastating aspects of it, but it's been such a disruption that there is no rule of thumb anymore for so many things. And I think one of again, like a slight silver lining or positive note, where this various people outside their comfort zones now shooting themselves, not knowing how it's going to turn out, sending it to me, and just trying to create their own internal laugh track, for their show, is that there is no wrong. The template wasn't meant to be like, this is the right way to do it. It was meant to like, we'll take some thinking out of it. We'll take some logistical gymnastics out of it, and we'll provide these tools to make it streamlined. But there is no wrong. As long as you're in front of the camera, as long as we can see the drink, there's nothing. There's just no wrong. And so it's kind of a beautiful thing, because it's a true freedom in many ways.
That's wonderful. To kind of circle back to the process a little bit, maybe for some of the other bartenders that are still out there that are maybe on the fence about, applying for some of this next from the home, after you're shooting these videos, are you using your cell phones? Are you then just sending them all over to Zack at a time, or are you kind of touching base periodically through the process?
Yeah, so, the bartenders are always in contact with a liaison from the USBG who can help get them the product they need, specialty equipment. Oftentimes that's myself. So I'm there to support all the bartenders. They're in touch with Zack throughout the process. So if they have questions about like equipment or, setup or any technical sites they may encounter, he's available. So I feel like, you really get a lot of support, even though you are maybe at home shooting by yourself. You don't feel like you're alone throughout the process, because you have people who have either gone before you or are in the current round. Like, we make an effort to connect all the bartenders from each individual round of applications, so that they can kind of see what one another are doing and kind of share any tips or experiences they may have had. But for the most part, these videos are shot at home with cell phone cameras, which are actually pretty good these days, according to Zack. I actually, set up my iPad for like a close-up while doing the wider shot from my phone. kind of shot those simultaneously. But I think there are a lot of different techniques to be used, you know, to make them look better. I think lighting is probably a really important thing that Zack can touch on. You know, I had an aspect of my video where I was lighting something on fire, so I was like, this is gonna be great. I'm gonna turn down the lights, you're gonna see the flames, and just like the camera never adjusted to that low light. I wasn't really thinking about, you know, refocusing, and you know, that was part of my process, part of my learning experience. Is like, it's not perfect, but you know, we made the effort, and at the end of the day, we had some fun. So
yeah, I think that's great. I think that's a wonderful part. What were some of the maybe interesting challenges that you ran into, LyAnna, when you were setting these up that maybe you didn't see, that hopefully people that are applying for some of these next rounds might be able to think ahead to make their process a little bit easier?
An overriding thing, I guess, that we've commented on quite a few times is that it didn't have to be perfect. I kept like trying to get the perfect shot, like make it through without making an error, make it through without doing something weird with my hand, make it through without calling it the wrong cocktail name, and those types of things where, right, you know, and it's like, I was so bent on making it perfect that the first couple days of it were like, oh, why? And then I started communicating with Zack more, and he's like, what are you talking about? You're good. Like, I got it. Like, whatever. And, oh no, that looks great. Cool. Lighting's fine. Like the actual things that matter. So picking a location that you can just be set at, like leave all of your tools as if, like set it up like your little bar, which kind of makes you feel a little bit safe. And then making sure, like lighting, because there was one thing, like I finally got the confidence to be like, this doesn't have to be perfect, just do it. And then I realized the lighting coming through the windows washed out absolutely everything. And then I was going to have to wait a few hours, and waiting for those few hours, I was like, I might get drunk right now. I'm not sure what's going on. Like I have this gin. I'm like, yeah, I mean, naturally, but I feel like the biggest part would be don't overthink it. Because you actually have that support crew, and what that support crew is able to do is to make you look better than what you actually did, because they can delete 80% of the things you actually said. Second, like
or they'll end up in a highlight reel or a blooper reel.
Or yeah, get a highlight. Yeah.
At the end. Yeah.
Yeah. And also like not, I think I've reached out to a few people, and they were kind of like, oh, well, I don't know what to do with like a fancy drink or something. And it's like, this isn't a fancy drink. Like, I mean, sure, Pat and I go a little bit over the top with many things, as many bartenders do. The other side of that is like, we're also into absolutely every form of thing that has alcohol. It doesn't have to be something that's so like, this doesn't have to be like, oh yeah, I'm trying to like get my program into James Beard. This is like, cool, you know what, we're all going through something, and what I happen to have in the fridge went bad, so I'm going to use something out of the freezer. It might not be the best product, but it's also something that we have, and it's what we're going through. And you know, so many people you're reaching out to are in that same exact situation. And so it's not, I guess, yeah, once again, not about perfection, but it's about what we actually have access to. And you can teach people through that. Like, okay, fine, arugula juice sounds hard, totally understood. But you have a juicer, or you have these types of things, and it's like a really easy, yeah, I just thought that as I was like defending it. I'm like, that's not even, that's just the only hard part of my drink. But when you think about it, it's like not even hard, except most people are going to be like, oh, I can't do this. And it's like, honestly, I don't know why people think I'm better than they are at this, because everybody can do. It's not like, okay, everybody can't bake. I understand, like it's still really difficult what we do, and like on a daily basis in the service part. But making a home drink is like, you can do it.
I swear I had all that stuff in my house to begin with. I did not make a special trip out.
You really did. Sonia does that for you.
Strawberries.
Yours was the coconut oil fat wash? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
washing yourself in coconut oil every morning. That's
why I keep this all so fresh.
Oh God, it's amazing.
Yeah, it's just like those little hacks that like we know how to do.
That's interesting. So after you are compiling all of the videos, they're sending them over to you, Zack. What's sort of maybe the next process that, as far as the editing steps and things, what are you, I guess what's happening after that?
Yeah, so we get a Dropbox link set up where people can upload their videos and a photo of their final cocktail, all the media that we need, and more hopefully than we need. We encourage everyone to shoot. Can I swear on this? Okay,
yeah,
cool. Yeah. There's a recording happening in a Facebook Live, so I wasn't sure. But send us a metric fuck ton of footage. There's not too much. So we get it all. I go through, I look at it. From that, and I love, it's a quick side note. I'm not a cocktail crafts person. I don't make cocktails at home. I don't know what the fuck to do, but I know what the fuck I like. And so I'm a really good patron at a bar. So it's really kind of nice. So thank you. So it's really kind of nice that I'm doing the editing because I'm looking at everything. It's really kind of nice that I'm ignorant because I'm looking at everything is, can I follow this? Is it dumbed down enough? Is there enough content and pieces there that I can follow what the hell needs to happen? Because if I can follow it, a kindergartner can. And so I review everything, make sure that I can understand it and follow it. And then from there, if we need more stuff, I'll go back and be like, hey, do you mind redoing this portion? Do you have any other footage you can send me, XYZ? And then from there, I go through, look at all of it, try and identify personality pieces to the bartenders in the video, and then try and, depending on how much time I have, then go through and try and figure out how to create other complementary visual elements within the video that are going to either color-wise speak to the drink, graphics that kind of play with the personality that's present in the video, how, kind of work through the logistics of that and try and put a little creative spin on it from a graphics or animation or editing standpoint. And then just like, where are my cuts? How can I get this down? We want to incorporate as much knowledge as possible, but it's that balancing act of, do you allow an encyclopedia's worth of knowledge to be present in a 30-minute long video and people's retention then starts to drop? Or do you cherry pick nuggets that are really unique and you try and retain that, retain attention with a shorter video? And, like balancing those things out, and then working with Mo. Once I have a first, second round of everywhere it's condensed down and I know all the pieces, it may not be beautiful, but I know the pieces that are going to be there. I then hand it off to Mo. He takes a listen through the audio and watches the video, gets his own creative spin on a music personality that matches the bartending personality in the video, and then feeds me that. And he and I collaborate a bit on, the audio piece and the mood, and then finalize it and, get it out there, review it internally. I've never won a spelling bee in my life, and it shows, and review it internally so people can catch all my spelling mistakes. I did go to school and let's not talk about my mistakes. They're not in front of a camera.
I purposely didn't tell you.
So that's pretty. I mean, that's the rough piece of it.
Oh, that's wonderful. I'm actually glad you brought up Mo, and I feel like we should definitely do a little shout out to him. He wasn't able to make it today, but
thanks, Mo.
Nunez, thanks, Mo, for everything you're doing. Speaking of Mo Nunez, Mozart 212, Portland's resident beat god, and just a general Sherpa for the way most things should happen. So thanks for all your help with this, Mozart. And maybe we'll try and sneak him in on a later episode. I think that's really wonderful. And I'll try and actually keep this to the time limit today. We were shooting for about a 30-minute thing, but a couple other things to maybe before we wrap it up. We've still got applications going. We're still collecting money from a lot of great sponsors. Speaking of sponsors, this one is brought to you by the Portland chapter of The USBG. Should have said that probably 25 minutes ago. We'll get that figured out for next one.
That's all right.
It's okay. I'll edit it to go back to the beginning.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Fuck it, we'll fix it in post.
That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, see? That's why it's a team effort here.
So while we're talking about applications, Mark, let me just bring up the easiest way for people to apply, which is to visit the saveourshifts.com website, and there's a tab for applications there. Currently, right now, we're in round 3 of applications for night shifts, which are these longer produce videos, between 5 and 10 minutes. And I can't stress enough the importance of the educational aspect of the videos. Since we're working with the United States Bartenders Guild, which is the conduit through which we're able to hire bartenders as independent contractors and get them paid for their educational content. We're really looking for applications that have some sort of educational value to satisfy the mission of the guild. So, it can be as simple as making a flavored syrup. It can be as, complex as, fat washing a spirit. Obviously, those are 2 ideas that we've seen already. But Mark, you're on the selection committee. What kind of ideas do you think the committee's looking for heading forward?
That's actually great. Good question. We're certainly looking for variety, and one of the things that I'd like to maybe mention to people is variety doesn't always mean how many weird ass ingredients can I put together, or can I put all of this stuff in and still have a drink here. We've got a few videos that'll be coming out that are just based on one is just a video of a classic. Sometimes that's all it takes. It's maybe not the most, somebody that's been bartending forever might not think it's the most unique idea, but to be able to speak on these things in an educational and well-rounded way, I think is super, super important to me. It goes back to speaking to the guests when you actually do have guests. And, Pat mentioned fat washing. We've had a handful of those come in, and this one thing this whole process made me aware of is everybody knows how to fat wash now. So that's good. So, maybe think about something a little different. Even if you're just explaining, something, difference of glassware, who knows? That could be, of why that's important. They don't always have to be a video about a cocktail. A lot of our sponsors are spirits based, so probably those do have to revolve around a cocktail, but there's a lot you can do within that format. So
I'd love to see some technique driven concept.
Yeah,
what works better? What's the best way to kind of crushed ice, and how do you use it in cocktails? Or, what's better, the double dry shake or the reverse dry shake?
I was just gonna bring that up. I was like,
Yeah.
do you wet shake first?
Yeah, it depends.
Well, and also I think it's important to note who the demographics are that we're trying to hit with Save Our Shifts. We're looking to hit a very broad demographic, from the person like me that I can do great sitting at a bar and imbibing, but doesn't always make a cocktail at home because I'm just too intimidated to do it.
Right.
And so the knowledge piece is needed for that. There's one video I'm editing where the bartender talks about the use of a certain glass and how the shape of it retains the oil of the citrus that was just put in. And that blew me away. I mean, that's so simple for y'all. Those were one of those easy steps that y'all know and don't even talk about.
Yeah.
And to me, it was like, oh my God. And then also, I always thought the bartender would shake a cocktail just to get it mixed. I didn't realize there's a dilution process, and that's part of the recipe itself.
Sure.
is accounting for the dilution process. So how long you shake isn't just it's super well mixed, it's also the dilution. So think about not necessarily educating people that are already slightly below or at your level, but educating the ignorant masses like myself. So know that our demographic is very wide, and that educational piece can be super, super simple, because that's what the masses may respond to, and can also creep up there to like a whole nother level that the masses are not at. So just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah. Good point.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful. Maybe a great point to maybe end it on. I do have one more little, I guess we'll call it a segment that I'm going to try and throw into these. It's called What's Good Here? And I'll maybe start with you, Pat, that little salt and pepper hair. When we open back up and your bar's ready to go, what are you going to make me?
It's funny because when everything shut down, I was still in like late winter, early spring mentality. So we're just going to have to hit the ground running with summertime drinks, Mark. I'm going to make you a daiquiri for sure.
Perfect. What kind of rum?
Something strong, maybe overproof. I was thinking maybe a little Ray and Nephew for you, something funky.
Ooh, I like.
We do have 2 liters of that.
Yeah, we're gonna sneak some sherry in there too.
You gotta. Yeah. How about you, LyAnna? What's good here? What are you gonna make me when I come and visit you at your bar?
You know what? You look like you could use a spritz.
Ooh. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you want it pink? How about no added food dyes?
Ooh, perfect. And Zack, when I kick your door in after social distancing is over and sit on your couch and ask you what's good here, what are you gonna make me?
Oh, I know.
And you're gonna get it right, because I'm gonna make you a cafe Negroni that I learned from the 2 bartenders on the panel today, because I want to feel like I accomplished. Yes, 2 of the 3. Sorry.
Sorry, I had to.
Very fair. I want to feel like I can do something that you'll be polite enough to say okay to my face, and then complain about to everyone else.
Perfect. Love it.
Nice to hear you're cold brewing your own vermouth at home these days. That's
Oh yeah.
That's wonderful. We're all grabbing our.
there she is. I was waiting for it.
We're all grabbing our pets here. I guess thank you all for joining us.
Yeah.
Thank you to everybody that's applied in previous rounds, and hopefully will apply in rounds to come. Thank you to all the sponsors, especially the USBG Portland chapter that was gracious enough to sponsor this episode. These are going to be coming out pretty frequently, so keep an eye on our social medias. Save Our Shifts. SaveOurShifts.com. And you'll get all the information there. You can check out the sponsors, check out videos. I feel good with this. So we'll leave it right there. Thank you, everybody, and we'll see you next time.